Brian Cantor for CCW Digital here with two premier attendees. One who works very hard to identify, conquer, and continually conquer challenges for all kinds of contact center organizations. And another who doesn't just talk a big game, doesn't just ask, what do I need to do from a contact center perspective, but actually has a story of success to share, a journey toward customer centricity. The former is Alton Harewood of 8x8. The latter is Brian Court of Intralinks. How's everything going?
It's going great. Having a great time.
And that was Brian for the record. I did a horrible job of introducing them separately, but the point is I did a great job of identifying why I'm so excited to be interviewing them. And when you have their stories, when you have their background, you can understand me being a little starstruck.
Yeah, sure, Brian. I'm sure that's how you're going to feel. You'll recognize that Alton is the English voice. That's going to be really easy for your listeners to see. But one of the great things that comes out of the things that 8x8's been doing is that when we're working with customers like Intralinks and seeing the kinds of challenges they're having, moving away from these traditional, we call it wave one, old-fashioned on-premises systems, they've managed to step it up a little bit to the wave two world of getting maybe IM in the cloud, instant messaging, and little attributes. We're trying to take them that step further to the wave three, full unified communications in the cloud, everything in contact center or in unified communications so that they can bring their businesses forward.
And that last part I think is really key because bringing their businesses forward. The technology sounded cool. There's impressive stuff. I look around the exhibit hall right now, amazing platforms, tons of VC-backed development, tons of great stuff happening here. But if you don't have a reason for doing it, then it just doesn't work. You're throwing money at a cool toy. You're not investing in empowerment. You're not making your contact center better.
Yeah, well, that's our story, right out of the gate. 2015, we're sitting on a 1996 Nortel analog switch, ancient Avaya software. We're talking $250,000 to upgrade the switch, $100,000 to upgrade the software, and a third-party vendor sitting there babysitting it, costing us $130,000 a year. So, we had to make hard choices, and instead of going with hardware, we decided that we had to look at the cloud. And, we brought in what we thought were the biggest players in the business at that point, 8x8 being one of them, and we put them to the test, from around the world. Intralinks, we have numbers in 45 countries. I have 103 international numbers. And the problem with that digital infrastructure going to my call center in the Philippines was calls were dropping off. We were getting 8 to 10 complaints a month about call quality. From our big clients like JP Morgan all the way down to our small clients. It was killing our CSAT.
What I love about what you just brought up, and what I love about that background right there, is that you revealed what people in this space know and people outside of the space maybe don't appreciate. And that's bad experiences cost money. So bad experience, you're investing, as you mentioned, if the technology is not what you need it to be, if it's not working correctly, that's upkeep costs, that's maintenance costs, that hurts your business. And then the cost of dissatisfaction. First of all, if you're dealing with complaints, if you're dealing with complicated issues that require big resolutions, your agents are devoting time to problems that they shouldn't have to be devoting. That's not efficient. On top of that, the negative impact of your reputational damage, them taking their business elsewhere, them telling their friends how much they hate you. These are all problems that actually have hard costs. And so when you look at a technology, if it's the right technology, it's so easy to understand why it's an investment and not just something you're buying.
Well, it's easy for us to see on the floor, but it's not always easy for management to see. And there's definitely some convincing to do to get them to, let go of that old switch and let go of that old technology because they're used to that. So that's where our friends from 8x8, once they won the bid, were really able to, to bring us into the future.
I wanted to ask you about that, Alton, because obviously, one of the differentiators for a lot of the great vendors here is no matter how great your technology is, you want to stand behind it. You want to walk people through that transformation. And part of that process involves helping them get the rest of the stakeholders in the organization on board. So how do you sort of approach that part of the process?
Well, I think a big part of what we do is certainly to listen to our sponsors and our coaches within the organization and to pay attention to the drivers. I mean, here, Brian just pointed out that quality of voice and call costs, these core fundamental elements of running a contact center were a challenge. So we sort of said, well, how are we going to address that? What will be the impact of us being involved in this? So he could present a really strong return on investment, but also improvement in quality experience to the people that mattered to make the decision.
But it is about the dollars and cents. So That was what drew them into the process, at least to begin with. And we saw the dollars and cents that saving realized when we did bring the platform online. But then there were other savings. We took a lot of old lines that were costing us 35, 40 cents a minute out of the UK, $1.50 a minute out of Tokyo, and we switched over to voice over IP local dial numbers that cost 2 cents a minute. So what happened was, after the first year when we got comfortable with the system, we really started looking at, hey, how do we convert these 103 numbers in 45 countries from old multi-terrestrial vendor high-cost lines down to 2 cents a minute, or if we have to get toll-free numbers, at least a reasonable price, like 35 or 40 cents a minute in some of the remote countries. What ended up happening was, at this point, after 2 years, our return on investment is in the 55 to 60% range. I mean, the system is paying for a good portion of itself. That's been the extra step, the real hit it out of the park part of it.
And that's the idea, though, is that you tied it to an objective. That objective can be cost. There's nothing, it's a business. There's no shame in wanting to be profitable. But what happens is there is shame in trying to chase technology for technology's sake and not for the sake of your operation.
Oh, absolutely. And we're out there providing people with technology, with communication solutions, but that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to solve business problems. If there's no business problem to solve, you're not really providing someone with something they need. As you said, you've absolutely got to have a reason to be delivering these capabilities. And I think, as Brian hit the point, all right, you're saving some money, you're improving some of the costs and future expectations, but another big thing for Brian was the customer experience shot up. The experience shot up, that's customer retention, and it's also providing the salespeople the ability to point to a great experience that this customer now, Intralinks, can provide their customer.
And you also arm the sales reps with, hey, we got customers that want to do business in the Cayman Islands or Turks and Caicos or, some bizarre location. Those locations are easier to reach with voice over IP than they are with terrestrial lines. I mean, the more bizarre the location, the higher the cost, to get there. So we were able to arm our sales reps with, South Africa was an example. Okay, we're doing business there, but the number doesn't seem to work, our universal number. But we can get a number for Johannesburg. We can get a number for Cape Town at 2 cents a minute, and all of a sudden things open up. That was very successful. We did that in Australia with Sydney and Melbourne. We did that in Brazil with Rio and Sao Paulo. People just really gravitated to that local number concept. I think it's a wave that some people haven't caught on to yet, but that your listeners should definitely take attention to.
Once again, bad customer experiences cost.
Yep.
It's not that you're paying for a good customer experience. In many cases, you're saving and getting a good customer experience. Now, Alton, in your case, you're on the floor here. You surely have your ears open for the kinds of challenges organizations are facing and where you might fit into that piece of the puzzle. So what are some of those challenges you're hearing about?
Interestingly enough, some of the challenges are very simple. They can be poor quality from the current cloud vendor, poor support experience. And then on the other side of the camp, I'm seeing a lot of the traditional PBXs with traditional old-style systems supporting them. I'm not going to mention vendor names, but they know who they are, and their customers are coming to us. And right now, we're opening our arms out and saying, we have what you need, and above all, what we've got is a process to bring them on board. So when they're ready and they need to move to the cloud, we've got these expert teams that are helping them complete that process and all the elements of it, just like we've done with Intralinks, so that they can be successful in that move. We're seeing a lot of that right now.
Now, I think the move to the cloud, the aspects of VoIP, those kind of elements of what we're having here, they've kind of been debunked. A lot of the concerns, I think, have been addressed. It turns out that cloud does elevate a lot of aspects of it.
Yeah.
But do you have any, and maybe, Brian, this makes sense to ask you first, are there any reservations that still do resonate that are worth considering as you consider this transformation?
Well, one of the things we talked about in our session was the reluctance of senior management all the way through. We can't change the numbers in the UK. There have been our numbers for 20 years. We had agents. I have a call center in the Philippines. We've got another 25, 30 agents in Boston and New York and spread around the world. They would not let go of their hard sets. They didn't think that phones, if you didn't have a phone, it's not a phone. But in fact, the use of soft phones not only improved the experience for our customers and our agents, but it made us much more flexible. I've got a call center. There are typhoons in the Philippines. If something were to happen, what happens to us? If there was a switch and it went down, we'd be dead in the water. No, we can pick up our operations, move it 30 miles away, and conversely switch our operations over to other resources seamlessly. Because we've got Oracle Service Cloud as a CRM, and we've got 8x8 as a phone vendor. So basically, all of the components that we have to have an operating call center are flexible and mobile. So they didn't see that at first. It took a little while. The money helped, and since then they've seen the innovation and the improvements in the product, and that's why we're looking at 8x8 for a total PBX solution, as well as some of the other components of their product like chat and analytics and things like that. So it took a little while, but the proof is in the success.
And I'm sure Alton has a perspective on this topic as well.
Oh, no, I was actually going to refer to somebody else completely, McKinsey. About 2010, they were talking about the financial world and saying if you didn't move to the cloud by 2020, you're going to have a real struggle to keep up with competition. And what we're seeing right now is many of these institutions, which are traditionally the ones that find it hardest to think of moving to the cloud, worried about security, financial implications, and so forth, now they're starting to come and talk with us. Now they're realizing, as credit unions, as smaller banks, that they need to start getting this quicker to change software, the quicker to market capabilities, and that they're going to be secure. And 8x8 security, for example, is insanely high. And we say, well, come to us, ask us about it. We'll reassure you. We'll give you that reassurance that you need. And it's happening.
And security for us, Intralinks is built on security. We are a SaaS vendor that services financial services industry and pharmaceuticals, mergers and acquisitions, private equity. You're talking the JP Morgans, the Bank of Americas, the Pfizers, the GSKs. In every one of these companies, security and privacy is their number one priority. So in that, as far as that is concerned, our partnership with 8x8 has been in sync. We've really been successful.
Makes perfect sense. So as we wrap up, Brian, what else are you hoping to get out of the event? I know you have every reason to be excited about this story, to share that, but you are here with some of the foremost minds in the customer contact space. What are some of your own objectives?
Well, I've wandered around some of the things. We have a language line service. I want to look at different options within that. We're looking at multilingual chat, both with 8x8, but with other vendors. So what I see is that there's different niches in each part of the puzzle, and there are leaders in those parts of the world, in the voice over IP world. So I've selectively gone around and had a really good time and met some vendors. A lot of them happen to work with 8x8 in some way or another, which is also good because it's easier to piece all of those things together. But it's been a very exciting conference. We're looking forward to tomorrow, and my management back at Intralinks they're waiting for that intel report to find out, what are the next steps we can take to make it work even better.
And then Alton, for you, people know the 8x8 name in this space, but I'm assuming maybe there's something you want them to really know about you right now that maybe they didn't know coming into the event. So what are some of those core messages?
So there's a lot of key words out there in the industry at the moment around contact center and unified communications. We are the only company that's doing both capabilities built by us ourselves globally. And we are also adding artificial intelligence and machine learning to that capability. We have a team built up. We just acquired Mariana IQ. We've got a whole focus on starting to help companies drive intelligence, not just across the contact center, but also across the unified communications environment, where there's so much to be learned and leveraged from day-to-day communications. We're really changing it up.
You definitely are, and obviously when you have a success story, when you have someone advocating for your brand, not based on the free trip to Vegas, but instead based on the real opportunity to share the success they had and their faith in a model that worked for them, that did what they wanted to in the short term in terms of cutting costs, and then gave them that long-term benefit of a better customer experience. That's what you have right there. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you, Brian. Same with you, Alton. Best of luck as you enjoy the rest of the event. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Brian. It was great.
Definitely. On behalf of CCW Digital, this has been Brian Cantor.